Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy FPWellman. We are here on a Tuesday at lunch, because I told you we'd be doing updates on a regular basis. I do random live streams just to keep you guessing and make sure you knew I was here. And so we're live streaming today on Substack and of course right on our Twitter feed, because why not? We'd love having people join us. I'm really excited about having the conversation with someone I've come to consider a friend, Dr. Kristin Lyerly. She's of course in Wisconsin, but we really want to spend some time also talking about just the world in general and the world. And I kind of want to, as everybody gathers, I just kind of wanted to show you this insanity that happened today. So I'm gonna bring up this video and pull myself out because this was just for the show and it does relate. I promise. I'm coming out.
Here we are with Marco and Brian today. They're letting me roll with them. We're going to go out and pick up somebody who I think is got charges of human trafficking. We earlier had an op that swept up somebody who was wanted for murder. So appreciate the good work that they do every day, and we appreciate them working to make America safe.
Uh, so much wrong with that. Okay. So, for those who've served and have served in the military and ever operated a weapon in your life, did you notice the part where she was pointing the weapon at the guy's head? She was pointing a loaded weapon at the other guy's head while holding it like it was a toy, okay? That's the Secretary of Homeland Security. She's a cabinet secretary, and she's out doing cosplay raids with Homeland Security agents or whoever, the ICE, Mexican MS-13 gang members, holding a loaded weapon and pointed at the guy's head, okay? That's the danger, or that's the insanity of the moment we face. And believe it or not, we actually had close elections because still. Now, the good news is we had two special elections in Florida. We didn't win, but there's a lot of Republicans in those districts. But they did shift by like 15 points per district. But at the same time, we had a big, big election. I'm going to bring over Substack so I can see you guys on Substack. We had a big election over in Wisconsin, and that's kind of what I wanted to move to and discuss, because you know how it is in politics and how it is today, right? The thing is, we do one thing and then we just move right on to the next thing. And it was kind of important. I wanted, before we got too far from it, Kristen had reached out to me a couple weeks ago. Life is pretty nutty. I didn't get a chance to talk to her, but I want to bring it. So I'm going to introduce my friend, Dr. Kristin Lyerly. She's an OBGYN. She can tell you all the cool things. Most importantly, she's been involved in a bunch of important cases that helped bring abortion back law. She fought the old law in Wisconsin, involved in a lot of interesting, but she also ran for Congress, so she's also a brave soul as well. Kristen, welcome to Odd Democracy Update. It's glad to see you. Great to see you here. Welcome. Good to see you again, my friend.
Thank you, Fred. And hold your puppies close, my friends, because Christy Nome is out there with a loaded weapon.
We're literally
I
having
mean,
that conversation, right?
I cannot believe the state that we are living in right now. When I look
Right?
at everything that's happening in the world and the stock market, and like everything is unhinged, everybody is feeling some sort of discomfort. But 1 week ago today in Wisconsin, hope
Hope
returned.
sprung anew, yeah. So that was
Hope
great,
sprung
and
anew.
it's typical. I was saying, we move on from whatever the good news, and it is good news. I don't want to get lost in that. And there is green shoots. Right after the Wisconsin election, we had the big protest last weekend, which many in the mainstream media buried on page A18. But we had thousands. I know you were out there. I'm sure I was out here in St. Louis, Missouri. One of the great places. But you're best known for your actually work in women's health, most notably, of course, reproductive rights, abortion care in the wake of Dobbs. That's still in the crosshairs. What got you sucked into now working on the Wisconsin Supreme Court election?
All of that.
Right.
It started out being abortion was one of the biggest issues in this race. So I got involved because of that. I'm an OBGYN doctor who is also the lead plaintiff on the case over the 1849 criminal abortion ban in Wisconsin, which has been it brought up to the Supreme Court. They're sitting on it right now. It hasn't been fully decided. As a result, I can't practice in my home state where my family has been for 6 generations. So I'm still practicing in Minnesota. This is not settled. So to me, this isn't just about my patients getting health care. It isn't just about the law. This is it's deeply personal. So the opportunity to get involved and make sure that Susan Crawford got elected, I put everything I had into it. And I am so proud to tell you, Fred, I'm really, really proud of this. When Elon Musk picked Green Bay, my hometown, We organized this protest. Over 1,000 people showed up. We were expecting a couple hundred. It was 33 degrees outside. It was
Man.
raining. It was miserable. And people were out there, and they were Northeastern Wisconsinites. They came from Marinette. They came from New Holstein. They came from all over the region. They were not paid, and they were fired up. That was the beginning of it. Also, the cheesehead. That was like poorly done by Elon. Like, yes, please come to Wisconsin.
I
Please
didn't
wear a
prepare. I should have had
cheesehead.
pictures. Well, you saw them.
Do it for fun though. Don't do it because you're trying to win our votes. That
Yeah.
was his big downfall, is he tried to bribe the people of Wisconsin. And that was where we saw the people stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this. And we've seen it repeated over and over again. Last Saturday, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, home of Making a Murderer. If you remember that Netflix documentary, this is the conservative red area.
Yeah.
800 people showed up in
Wow.
Manitowoc, Wisconsin
Wow.
to
Wow.
protest. This is about the people using their voices to make sure that we tell our elected officials that they are not serving us.
And that's exactly it, right? And we're seeing that movement in the reddest of places. I was here in St. Louis, Missouri. We had 2,000 show up in West St. Louis County and Wagner's very conservative district. She's been
Wow.
running re-election, getting it easily at 12 points or more every year without even trying every 2 years. And we had 2,000 people in the pouring rain. I've been making jokes a lot about how we had nuns out there, sister, the Sisters of Mercy. They made the
Yes.
nuns protest in the rain. I mean, you're screwed when the nuns are coming out. I mean, come on, man. What have you done? What you had to question your life? You made the nuns come out in the rain. I mean, I grew up Catholic. I know how dangerous that is. And people are mad. And what are you hearing from? I mean, so let's go back to the election, and I love to kind of frame it on there. Elon showed up. He dropped millions of dollars, I think 20 million in the end. He literally gave away
25.
checks. 25
Mm-hmm.
million dollars is the number now. He gave out checks. I'm curious because look, the reasons for our viewers, and gosh, you're piling in. I love seeing so many names and faces. Good to see so many friends again. Mark Reed, my good friend Mark is here. Clint Candle, my West Point classmates here. I mean, we have a wonderful community, Kristen. And I guess the big, I lived in Virginia many years. We have the governor's race in Virginia. There's statewide races in Virginia in the fall. They've been set. Abigail Spanberger is going to run against the current lieutenant governor, Winsome Sears, who's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Jersey's getting set. I mean, we have statewide elections, not next year, folks, not the midterms. I'm talking 2025. And so there's some valuable lessons we need to take away from Wisconsin as we geared for that next test for the Trump administration. Elon
Mm-hmm.
dropped $25 million. What did you hear from regular Wisconsinites as you saw this unfolding, this infusion of massive amounts of cash, and some pretty negative stuff too?
They were offended.
Okay,
Even the people who signed up to get $100, they did it for the $100. They didn't do it to support Elon. And so
well,
many of those
free money. Who's
people,
going to fight you that, right?
right? Well, people are starving. You can't afford groceries. And now they're looking at the horizon, they're looking at the stock market, and they're thinking, oh, it's bad now. How bad is it going to get?
Yeah,
How bad is it going to get for these baby boomers who are counting on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all of these things that they thought were going to be there for them in their retirement? And now they're wondering, when am I going to run out of money? And
right,
who's going to support me? And
right.
that is a lot of people who live in these rural areas where they're disadvantaged, where maybe they came out and voted for Trump in the past because they wanted change.
Yeah,
But this isn't the change that they voted for. I mean, I'll tell you, in western Wisconsin, I should say in central Wisconsin, the western part of my district, in Shawano County, the people of Shawano held a listening session, and they invited all of their elected Republican leaders who did not show up. But you know who
of
showed up?
course.
Me and all the Democrats who did not get elected. And we had such an important listening session as they
Right,
were sharing all of these like basic things that they're not able to do. They're all of their fears. ICE on the Indian reservations. ICE is on the Menominee reservation, and people are scared. They're wondering about bird flu. They had questions about measles and why we don't have an appropriate public health response. Well, we dismantled that public health response during COVID with political misinformation and disinformation when people left public health because people were coming after them over masks and vaccines. We don't have the health infrastructure we did 5 years ago, and we
right.
certainly don't have it now with Robert Kennedy in charge. So the potential that we have as people in Wisconsin, in New Jersey, in Virginia, because we're not taking our foot off the gas,
No,
Every week
can't.
brings another thing, another reason to have these discussions, to get out and talk with our neighbors, even in the least likely places like Manitowoc, Wisconsin, or
Right,
Shawano,
right.
or West St. Louis. All of these conversations can be had. Those of us who pay attention to politics, we know what's going on and we're already doing this. But there are a hell of a lot more people out there who don't pay attention the way that we do. And they want to be invited into the conversation too because they're hurting.
What I find fascinating is I had the privilege of being I did an interview with German TV. Go figure. I don't know why they wanted me. And so we did an interview and we were talking and they asked me like, from your perspective, what's the Democratic strategy at the leadership? I was like, well, that's what's weird, right? Is like in a lot of ways what I'm seeing the last three, and you're seeing it, Wisconsin, I think. Wisconsin is such a great little it really was a nice little microcosm of what we're facing, right? A lot of this came from the grassroots. Your fight started in a lot of ways from the grassroots and went upward. That the focus on this election really did start with regular Wisconsinites, and here what we're seeing is regular Missourians and everywhere else stepping out. There's a very big grassroots anger growing that is now kind of getting the attention of our leadership, so they're waking up. I love the fact that we started having these, like you mentioned, that town hall. We scheduled a good friend of mine scheduled a town hall here in Ann Wagner's district. She didn't show for. So now the DNC is holding town halls. Tim Walz is showing up, others are showing up. It seems like in a lot of ways the grassroots is pushing our leadership and the top levels of the party, to get on board and get understanding that we're pissed. I mean, that's what you're hearing too. People are just freaking angry right now, aren't they?
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It is grassroots. So, what we saw in Shawano, and at the end of this conversation that went way longer than we had expected, people felt satisfied. And I said to the group, if the congressman was actually here, he would have shared a lot of platitudes and, maybe you would have felt excited about him being here,
Hmm.
but you
Hmm.
wouldn't feel like anything was going to make a difference. But what
Right.
we started to do, and I'll use measles as an example because I'm a doctor and I'm profoundly worried about this measles epidemic
Yeah.
that's on the
Yeah.
horizon. So
Terrifying.
they were too. So we started talking about, there was another doctor in the audience. We started talking about who are the resources in the community? How can we pull in the healthcare organizations? How can we get the word out to the public? Who can be the voice? How can we help our public health infrastructure where there's one public health nurse for the whole county to cover chronic diseases and epidemics and all of the other stuff? And we started talking about solutions because we know the cavalry isn't coming out of
No.
Madison, out of our state government, and they
No.
certainly aren't coming out of Washington, D.C. We've got to do
No.
this ourselves. But we can because we've got all of the power to do that. We've got all of the people who can make it happen. We just have to organize.
Right. That's it right there. If we organize, we win. And that's exactly what's happening here. The planning meetings I'm on, I'll give you we had a planning meeting April 5th, and I've been very blessed that the real people who do that in St. Louis, I am in St. Louis, and the real people who do that in St. Louis invited me to be part because I'm not that guy. I've never done a protest. I admit that freely, okay? I'm an old soldier, right?
Come
And
on,
they
Brad.
invited me. I know, right? Look, I'm getting with it. I'm getting with it. I'm getting with it. Even old dogs, new tricks, etc. Back to dogs again. The dogs will be the theme of this show, Krista. But back to the dogs again. I'm an old dog, and we did. They said, "Hey, we're going to do one out of the VA," and we went down to the VA here in St. Louis, and we ended up having 500 plus people line the street in not a protest, a demonstration in support of the Veterans Affairs of the
Yes.
Department of Veterans of support the veterans. And then this week for April 5th, we did the planning meeting, and it was so funny. We had huge rain. I know you've been getting it too. We're flooding. Hi, Chesterfield. I'm just up the road from you. We are. I always say hi to my guests. My chat. I'm sorry. I love my fans. I'm the
Mm.
best subscribers. Just so you know. Anyway, so we put the plan together, and it's huge rains. I mean, it was just ridiculous. We're having flooding here. If you live in the Merrimack Valley, near where I live, it's flooded. And goddamn, we had one of our guys been organized in St. Louis for easily decades. Said, look, I've been organizing St. Louis for years. Yeah, we've got like 1,500 RSVPs. People said they're going to be there. But I know St. Louis, with this pouring rain, we'll be lucky to get 200. We had 2,000 people in the
That's
rain.
amazing.
Yeah, we
Yes.
covered three-quarters of a mile of Manchester Road, just the main drag through that part of the county. And
Hmm.
again, that just and I said I told the group, I said, "Do you get it? Do you get it?" I talked to my colleagues on the Hill. I said, "Are you getting this message? I mean, do you see the message that people want action? And there's no more.
Hmm.
And look what we're seeing now. I was thrilled to see Blumenthal. Blumenthal said he's not going to approve another confirmation for an administration member on any of the four committees he sits on. Ruben Gallego stopping any more VA appointments. This is what the Republicans did when they were in the minority, and it's good to see real power come through it. Now, what are the
Mhm.
key? I mean, let's go back to the Wisconsin election and talk the electoral politics side of this. You were involved as you were an advocate. You're sort of a surrogate, I know, for Judge Crawford. What are some of the key lessons you're going to take away from that? So, if I'm sitting in Virginia right now, we beat Elon in that state. There was some nationalization of it, obviously, because once Elon got well nationalized, so nationalized part of it. But a lot of ways, I don't feel like it was a nationalized race as much as that is. There was a lot of real anger on the ground. So, what do you think of the key lessons you learned from that election win?
The number one lesson is what are the people talking about and how can we capture that energy and use it in a positive way?
Yeah,
So, like I said earlier, abortion was a huge issue early on, like a month
sure.
before the election. And that was where I ended up getting involved. But as a former congressional candidate in Northeast Wisconsin, we're really like Madison's pretty locked up. We know they're pretty liberal. Milwaukee's
Yeah,
pretty liberal. Well, Green
yeah,
Bay is the next largest town. And there are a lot of independent voters here. So
yeah.
there is a lot of room for play as long as you let the people use their voices and you give them
Right.
a place where they can come out and talk about it. So, not just it's giving the people that voice, but making sure that they can use their unique voice because the message that works here in Northeast Wisconsin is not the same message that works in Madison. And I
Right.
think that that's the case. Like, look at Pennsylvania, for example. You've got Philly, you've got Pittsburgh, but you've got a giant, like Bucks County is huge and interesting and different than the rest of the state. So
Yeah.
how do we break that up and how do we find regional organizers and opportunities for us to be able to make sure that the message is going to resonate? Elon gets people out for the Republicans, but he gets more people out for the Democrats in parts of Wisconsin. And he came to Green Bay because he thought, this is my theory, that there are a lot of MAGA people here. There really are a lot of MAGA people
Sure.
who are still
We
very
know it.
loyal to Donald Trump. If they had sent
Sure.
Donald Trump, could have been a very different outcome
Mm,
because people
mm-hmm.
still, for whatever
Mm.
reason, are still tied to that. But they sent
Mm.
Elon, and we recognized that people were uncomfortable with Elon, and we capitalized on that.
Fascinating. And I think what I heard and tying together kind of what you said, what I heard very loudly. So let's go back to Virginia as an example. So in Virginia, the last, when Glenn Youngkin won it in the 4 years ago, there's a lot of talk of, oh, it was the soccer moms and transgender, whatever, book bans that did it. And in a lot of ways, those of us who analyzed the race actually saw something else. We saw a failure by the Youngkin campaign to do any kind of work in rural Virginia or the cities that were beyond Norfolk, the Northern Virginia suburbs and Richmond. Beyond that, they thought they could lock it up with those three areas. And you and I know that no states, like people think they can win Missouri with St. Louis and Kansas City. Hell no, you will not win Missouri with just St. Louis and Kansas City. Even with Springfield, you still won't win Missouri. You've got to campaign everywhere, and the message has got to resonate in those places because the message in I don't know, uh, whatever you want, Hannibal, isn't going to be the same message as it is in St. Louis downtown. And I'm hearing
Mm-hmm.
from you that's kind of what what Susan's campaign did. And a lot of ways, it may have been happenstance because a Supreme Court race isn't typically a huge race at the statewide level. I understand this is probably the most money ever spent in a judicial race. At least in Wisconsin history, it may have been one of the biggest in the country, which
Oh,
is something to
Fred,
think about. Mhm.
it was over $100 million, and it
I'm
was
gonna take
by
my glass off
far.
and rub my eyes. This. The viewers know that when I do this, I'm like, oh Jesus, $100
It was
million
the
dollars on
most
a
in the country, and the
holy
record that it
shit,
broke was the 2023 race, Supreme Court
which was
race
also
in
set in
Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
right? But
Y'all go
it
crazy
almost,
out there. Is the
yes, it
cheese
almost
Jesus,
doubled
woman?
that. It's the
I
cheese
know.
and the beer, pretty much. Yeah, come on up for a game. We'll hook you up. You'll
Yeah,
understand.
it makes
Yeah.
sense.
But one of the things that I heard out in Shawano again was people were saying, what are the Democrats doing about this?
Right.
And even in rural areas, this is kind of like a message that we're hearing everywhere. We're like, what are the Democrats doing? And we're seeing Cory Booker, and we're
Yeah.
seeing, some Democrats are really trying to do some things.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like enough at this time. To be fair, they don't have any power in Washington, D.C. They don't hold any of those roles, so it's challenging. But I turned it back on us
Yeah.
because it's what can we do in our communities? How can
Right.
we capture that energy and that power and
Right.
then reflect that back up to the Democrats and the folks that can make a difference, that do actually hold the key. So, yeah, I can't control what's happening here, but I can definitely control what's happening down here.
So if I'm in Virginia, I'm in New Jersey, I'm watching this, what I'm hearing very clearly is you've got to empower your local organizers and you've got to give them, maybe even throw some money if they can, but empower them with message and get them out there for the message and then support them in their areas and say, all right, do your thing, use the message that resonates the best. Here's a list of 10. I think I get frustrated with Democrats because it's constantly just one or two messages. No, no more than one or two, maybe three messages. And you and I know abortion's a good example, but not everybody cares about abortion, right?
Mm-mm.
Unfortunately. But now with Trump, I mean, like you said, we've got Christy Nome playing cosplay Barbie with ICE. We've got, I mean, I talked about my show last week. I had Aaron Reichlin Melnick on the show, who is a fellow with the American Immigration Council. I don't know about you. I spent time in combat. I spent 3 tours in Iraq. I closed my eyes. That arrested the woman at Tufts University who was in a veil. I'm sorry. You close your eyes over, you turn the sound off. Sure looks like fucking Baghdad to me. And under Saddam. And so that's an issue. Is we had Sackett's Harbor, where the principal of the
Mm-hmm.
elementary school, I'd love to get on my show, by the way. She put a letter saying, my God, you scooped up 3 kids. I don't know if you know the story. For those who don't know the story, ICE raided a house 3 doors down from a house in Sackett's Harbor, New York, or Massachusetts. And while they just knocked on all the doors of the street while they're there. And they found a woman who's been trying to get legal for years now. They arrested her and her 3 children, who were elementary school age kids, and
Oh,
just bundled
wow.
them off. Right, bundled them off. They've been doing everything right. They're trying to get right, and it raised hell in the community. That's the stuff we're facing. That issue may, and what's weird, I don't think a lot of people understand, is that issue may resonate in a small town because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these small towns are full of immigrants who are getting scooped up off the street because they're low hanging fruit. We have a chain of Mexican restaurants. They didn't raid the ones in the big part of town. For my guest, my friend here who's watching this show who lives in Chesterfield, no, they didn't raid Chesterfield. They raided O'Fallon, the
Mm-hmm.
smaller town. The restaurant that's on this rural highway got raided. Okay, low hanging fruit. And so I do think the issues are varying across the regions you live in, aren't they?
And it's not just the raids, it's the threats, it's the chilling effect. So here
Right,
in New
terrorism.
London, right, in New London, Wisconsin, we've got a Tyson factory, chickens, lots of immigrants work there. We
Right,
found out that these folks have lost their work visas. They have to self-deport, they and their families who are in the schools in this small town. It's like 6,000 people. So they're going to lose a huge portion of their population. Their kids are going to be pulled out of school. They don't know where to go. They don't have any support. But the company is capitulating. They're just
yeah,
giving in. They're not fighting back. And we're seeing this in the meatpacking industry here in Green Bay. We're seeing this all over the country. And that's another really important message, Fred. We can't just give in. When they came into Wisconsin after Dobbs and said, "Oh, abortion is done," I didn't just go, "No, I'm just not going to do abortions." Because
right,
frankly, you just can't not do abortion care if you are caring for women. So we
right,
fought back and we won that access. And it's still an ongoing fight. And it's going to be ongoing probably my entire life. But I'm never going to give in on that or on helping out the people who live in my community because that's what we do for each other. And I'm just going to
right.
bring it back to Wisconsin for a second because I love this
Please do.
state. My family's been here for
I
six
brought you on
generations.
knowing we're going to be cheese-heading the shit out of the show.
Yeah, we love it here, but we're progressive. This is the history of this state is like fighting Bob LaFollette was our senator, Gaylord Nelson. Earth Day started here. Workers' comp was founded here. Unions were here. That's why this is such a compelling state. It's very purple. People actually have this like generational urge to help each other out. So we've got to mine that. We've got to find it. And we've got to help people organize. I believe you can find this in every single community, but you've got to figure out where are those points of strength? Is it an indivisible chapter? Is it the Democrats? Is it some other local community group? And like consolidating your power, organizing around that, finding that issue. For me as a doctor, it's healthcare. So right now, people are really worried about Medicaid. And my
Yeah,
work with the Committee to Protect Healthcare, which is a national organization of over 40,000 physicians, all different specialties, we're going to be coming out boldly talking in our communities, allowing, giving people space to talk about what Medicaid means to them. And it's even simple things like we don't call Medicaid Medicaid in Wisconsin, we call it Badger Care. But people
ah,
don't know the difference. They're confused
right.
about that. So helping to
It's a good
define
point.
and educate and make sure
Good
people
point.
understand what's at risk. We all have a place in this fight, but the most important thing that we have to do is not give up. Don't give up. Keep supporting each other. Stand together. It's never been more important.
You bring us to a good point. I wanted to get to Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, one of the things the Republicans are doing very effectively is that the branding of it. They're doing a concerted effort to say, of course, it's all fraud. All the and you and I know, unfortunately, the biggest fraud within Medicare and Medicaid isn't the people getting it; it's the people giving it. Right? It's the doctors. I hate to say it. It takes you about 10 seconds to Google about 20 different cases of Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud. And the other concern I have with that is I don't think people realize there was a wonderful article I posted it. I actually did a thing on I think I did a thing on, oh, I did a Substack on it, coincidentally enough, about the fact that Medicaid pays for an overwhelming majority of nursing homes attendees, people who are in nursing homes. And many states, I think Wisconsin is actually one of them, that if you do not, if your family member loses their Medicaid, you're still paying for them. You're going to be paying for their nursing home, like to the tune of $9,000 to $10,000 a month. I think there's a framing debate that the Republicans are trying to show that people on Medicare or Medicaid are poor or they're lazy. They keep using the example of the guy who's playing video games all day, which is nothing. Nothing could be further from the fucking truth. It's kids. It's seniors, right? I mean, you've been a doctor in
Veterans,
that states. It's veterans. That's the other
yes.
people at risk. How many veterans use it as supplemental care for their VA? Because people don't
Yeah.
realize that based on your combat disability, you may not get full VA care. There's a myth that every veteran gets full VA care, but if you don't have an actual combat injury or disability based on your service, you can be a veteran and still not get VA, but veterans are using that's the next one they use. So can you frame that counterpoint that framework that they're using against us to turn us and again to turn us against each other, right? We're talking about fellow Americans here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And you know who else? Over 40% of pregnant people in this country are on Medicaid.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, these are new moms. I just got into an argument with my own state senator because Wisconsin is the only state that has not extended postpartum Medicaid to a year. So in Wisconsin, new moms lose their health insurance coverage at 2 months postpartum. And we know that most women who die as a result of their pregnancy die in the postpartum period, and
Right.
80% of these deaths are preventable. So we can literally save the lives of new moms, keep families together, help communities if we just make sure that people still have access to healthcare. But they can't even go there because they want people to bootstrap it and start working their way up. Yes, we need to do that. I totally agree with you, but not like this. Not with work requirements.
Yeah.
We know that the barriers that they are putting up in front of us between us and our healthcare are not barriers that actually encourage us to participate more in society or get us out of this situation that we're in right now. What we need is affordable childcare. What we need is a living wage. What we need is healthcare.
Yeah.
Fred, remember when you were slightly younger and you had benefits? You could actually go to the doctor because it only cost $5 copay and your deductible
Right.
was like $500.
Right.
Now, my premium through the exchange is $800 a month just for me, and my deductible is $8,000. So, and I'm a doctor. I can afford it. And I still don't go and get the level of healthcare that I should be getting because I don't want to spend the money. So
Right.
imagine if you're a teacher or a police officer or someone who is in the service industry in your community. You are serving your neighbors and your friends, but you're just not going to get that thing checked out because you just don't have the $600 to pay for the doctor
Yeah.
visit.
Well, I've had it. I've had it just within my own family. My youngest son was a bartender for quite a while, and he just never had benefits. It was just, and he never made enough on the papers to even qualify for anything. So we had to supplement, and it is, and we're a fairly well off family. It's not like and that's what frustrates me so much that the barriers they've created and now are trying to dismantle. That circles back to the message, which is they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to create more barriers, trying to tear these down, trying to take them away from America. Look, this is a concerted effort to dismantle our government, dismantle our safety nets, dismantle our society so they can reshore those Apple. I mean, the idea that Lutnick actually went on fucking TV and said, we're going to reshore the Apple manufacturer so it should be Americans screwing in those little screws. Are you fucking kidding me, bro? I mean, are you kidding me? And then he said in a separate interview that all these laid off federal workers will be able to get jobs in the factories. First of all, you've been to a modern fucking factory. There's nobody in there, okay, screwing screws. Okay. Two, you want a research scientist or a social worker or a therapist who's now getting fired because that's who they're firing to work at a fucking factory. I mean, how lost are we as a society and the priorities of our society that oligarchs are telling us these things? And that goes back to Wisconsin, where Elon Musk rolled the fuck in with $25 million and told the people of Wisconsin how to vote, and they didn't like it much, did they?
They sure didn't. And they spoke up. And that's what we are going to be seeing all over the country for the
Right.
next, I don't know,
Yeah.
how long is it till the midterms, Fred?
I don't know,
18
six
months?
months. No, well, midterm,
530
yeah.
days?
I'm always thinking the next election. We've got state elections in New Jersey, in November. We now have a special election in Texas because Greg Abbott's going to let a seat stay absent because he's a dickhead. I mean,
Mm.
he's gonna leave the Texas seat open for till November just to be a dick.
Hmm.
That's the manipulation these guys do. But you're right. We have special elections. We have elections in November, and then a year after that, we had the midterms. We had to take Congress back. We had to take the Senate back. I tell you, it's
Hmm.
it's a crazy time. But I really appreciate your time to come on here with all of our gross. We have a couple 1,400 on Twitter. We've got another 153. So I really appreciate your time. Kristen, what's next for you? I mean, look, we've been like, what are you doing next? You're going to keep on fighting. I know you're a doctor, you're a full-time doctor in the next
I
state
am a
over because
full-time
your
doctor.
states, you got a full-time doctor, you got a day job. I guess you're going to have new fights to pick. I guess we'll have to drag you to Virginia, New Jersey to help them out too.
Well, now's the time to build. So definitely in Virginia and New Jersey, but all across the country. Now is the time to step up in your community to start thinking about, am I the person to run for Congress? Am I the person to help the people who are running for Congress?
You
How
stole
can
my
I most,
closing.
yeah, how can
Fine,
I
just
most
you go ahead. I'm not going to say a damn thing when we're done.
That's what we're doing here in Northeast
Yeah,
Wisconsin. We are
right.
not just the congressional seat, we are looking at all the state seats within. This is a place where before we got our new maps, when our old maps were gerrymandered, there were only two Democrats in all of Northeast Wisconsin. Now we've got five. We know we can have at least seven. We know
Yep,
we can flip Wisconsin blue, and that
yep,
plan starts now. Even though we can't enact it until the midterms, we are well on our way to making that happen. So that's part one for me. Part two is working with the committee to protect healthcare, to make
yep,
sure that we are shoring up our health infrastructure as much as we can, getting out information about things like Medicaid and how these Medicaid cuts are going to affect all of us, getting information out about measles and bird flu and all of this other stuff that we're not getting information about. Before the Trump administration, we as physicians would get emails every week from the CDC that would tell us, oh, this is popping up here, or this is a concern here, or here's a new study that just came out, or here's a new treatment. That's gone. We're not getting
yep,
any of that anymore. So we're
yep.
having to find other ways to get our information and to help each other out. So it's both of those things, but interestingly, they fit together. So it puts me in a perfect position to be able to do what my goal is, which is to be effective and to help people.
Where can people find you? Where can they chase you down online or everywhere?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Dr. Kristin Lyerly. I am on all the socials. Please follow, reach out to me. Let me know how I can help you. I want to. That's what I'm doing this for.
Perfect. Hit her up. Trust me, I hit her up when I talk about these things. So I appreciate Chris. Tristan, thank you so much for taking time. I'll close this thing out and go do doctor stuff. And thanks for it's so good to talk to you, my friend. I can't wait to keep staying in the fight with you.
Fred, you are the best. Keep the
Don't tell
faith,
anybody that.
brother.
You'll ruin my asshole image. We don't want that. I worked hard to be this asshole. Somebody on Twitter told me the other day, man, I did a picture from the protest, a full body picture of my t-shirt. Some guy goes, man, you're a little punk, aren't you? I said, no, I'm a big punk. Don't
Oh, don't
denigrate
believe it.
me.
It's a ruse.
I'm a big punk. So, all right, sister, good talking to you. See you soon.
Take care, friend.
Cheers. Bye now. Oh, what a great conversation. Kristen, I first interviewed Kristen when she was running for Congress. She stepped up to the race. She's been involved in the big fights for the abortion care and everything else. And now she took time for us to reach out. I wish I'd gotten her sooner, but thank God we won in Wisconsin. So now we can talk about how well it went. As always, you can find us right here. Of course, I am at fpwellman.substack.com. For those of you who are watching it right now, I hope you share with your friends. I hope you will subscribe, maybe upgrade to paid. That'd be an awesome thing for you to do. Obviously, all my Substacks free. I do that on purpose. I want to reach as many people as possible. So please tell your friends and share your subscription with them so they sign up as well. It's always free. But a paid subscription really helps pay for all this kind of craziness. Lets me stay home in the studio, talk to German TV, and talk to you guys. But Kristen says something really key at the end, and I'll end with that. This is the moment, y'all. You've seen it. The protest on April 5th. There's a lot more coming. I'm thrilled with. I'll be very soon announcing a big one we're doing. This week, I plan to announce an event I'm involved with coming up this spring that I'm very proud to be a part of. You can be involved in these things too. Let them know we're not playing. We are not taking this sitting down. They know they're hearing us. It's up to us. And the last thing of them all, what Kristen said was so key. Look, this is your moment. You want to run for office? Do it. Do it. Run for something that's out there. The Democrat National Training Committee, I had them on my Midas Touch show a little time ago, a little bit ago. The Democrat National Training Committee. That is amazing. They have on Democrat National Training Committee, dntc.org. DNTC has all kinds of trained Dems. I think it's trained Dems, trained Democrats. They have free training programs. They even have a 30-day program where if you sign up, they'll email you every day and with different reasons to run, like answering your questions on how hard it is to run for office. Because I've ever talked to people, they say, I don't know how to raise money. I wouldn't know how to run a campaign. Well, guess what? There are resources that teach you that. And if you just want to be a campaign manager for your neighbor who's going to run, great. There's resources for that too. We have the capability to help you run for office, and we should not have another damn Republican running for office unopposed. They just shouldn't. And look, I know it looks impossible. It is impossible. There are districts that are gerrymandered to hell. We all know that. But if we don't have a Democrat run, they're never going to hear Democratic messaging. That congressman has no responsibility to even come home and talk to their constituents. But when they have a Democratic opponent running against them, they feel the pressure to actually answer the call. That's the call. It's a very brave thing to do to step up for run for office. It was incredibly brave of Kristen when she ran for Congress in a long shot bid. But that's what we need because it matters. It matters. Your voice matters. So with that, we've talked about half an hour or so. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Hopeful 2026. It's wonderful to see you. Wow, look at that. There you go. So yeah, your kids can get involved. They can run field campaigns. Many young people get involved in campaigns by running the field program, which is knocking on doors, making calls. All that's feasible and possible. So I'm excited. We'll be having, I believe there's going to be a town hall here in St. Louis, for the by the way. I believe the DNC is having a town hall. I can't announce that yet either. I'm not allowed to announce anything. There's stuff coming, okay? Just trust me. There's stuff coming. Sign up for my Substack. I'll tell you more. With that, we've talked for a while. Lunch is waiting. I'm being texted by my fiance. They say lunch is waiting. Thank you guys for joining us such short notice to talk to Kristen. So many of you joined today. I appreciate it. We'll have more of these coming up. I will process this over and send it out as an email later. In the meantime, thanks for everything you do. You guys are happy warriors. These are great Americans right here. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon at the next update. Of course, as always, don't forget we've got Vote Vets, online Vote Vets Friday night, and all new on democracy FPL right on the Must Touch Network and here on Substack. And Sunday we've rebranded the show, the Sunday Show live, 11 a.m. right here on Substack and all the on democracy channels. We've got. I'm so excited about the new show on Sundays. They'll rename it a little bit. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be a lot more fun, a lot more laughs because we got to laugh right now, folks. So with that, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you all. We will see you soon.